scheduled for the initial disposition for both parents. We now have our guardian ad litem as well. And I'm ready to hear all of the updates. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Lee Heist, lawyer, guardian ad litem.
Thomas, counsel for the department. Ms. Young.
Caitlin Young, Department of Health and Human Services.
Michael Brooks, I represent the father, Joby Rupel.
Michael McFarland, representing mother, Mary Wilkowski.
You're welcome. Ms. Ice, I look forward to that.
Thank you, Your Honor. I am part of my report. I'm going to kind of ask some questions of the agency. I had visited with these children by Zoom. Are they available online, by the way?
Not that I can see. Okay. Looks like we have some representatives from the department, but no placement logged in.
So these are older boys and they have been through a lot. They aren't like children who just go, little children who just go wherever. They want to be with their parents. End of story, period. And when I say to them, well, you'd have to go to school if you're with your parents, they really school me in what it's like to be homeless without any resources, couch surfing with friends, and then try to get to school. I get that. I stand corrected in a sense. So the placement has advocated intensely for them to get enrolled in school, which they have been just since late last week, but she had all kinds of resources and just an excellent placement. But I really need these parents they need to be home. They need to be with their parents. They're very uncomfortable. They're polite young men. They're healthy young men, but so we'll have to see how they do when they don't get their wish and their needs to be with mom and dad, because mom and dad, I don't think have housing yet sufficient for the boys to come home. So that's the part I want to flesh out a little bit more through testimony about what we need. The parents haven't visited the kids, and it's very hard for them, and it's my duty to figure out what I can do to accommodate their needs. And they say their needs are to why are they being punished? That the family should be able to make it on dad's income. This is just a really harsh reaction in their mind. So their needs are met at this current placement, except the need that they articulate to be with mom and dad. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Testimony today, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll call Ms. Young. Thank you. Ms. Young, you are the foster care worker in this case, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And to date, you've submitted for the court to review a court report with a case service plan for each parent. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the case service plan does have both parents' signature on it. Is that correct?
Yes, it does.
Did you have the opportunity to sit with them, go over some of the conditions that cause the children to come into care and get their input about services that they may need to support the goal of reunification?
I did, yeah. So the date that they signed the report was the day that I met with them face to face. We sat down to go over, kind of what some of their goals were, some of the expectations. We went through the language of the report and kind of I explained to them, these are kind of the steps that the courts usually like us to take. What are some additional things that you guys felt that would be beneficial to you guys? So we did sit down, we developed this plan together. The intern, myself, we sat together with them, kind of went over it for a good 2 hours. We went through this plan. We got releases signed for a couple of the services to assist them a little bit further for things such as housing and their parenting education that they enrolled in. So we are working on a number of things at this time.
Losing my train of thought here because I want to get back to what Ms. Heiss had indicated about kind of getting the children back to their parents. And I know that in the report you indicate there's a home study sort of in the process. One of the youth's close friends, there hasn't been any parenting time because of sicknesses. So can you just kind of give us an update or respond to Ms. Heiss about her report?
Yes, absolutely. So as far as the home study, I was approached by the parents as well as the minor children to do a home study on the oldest child's girlfriend's family. So I was able to meet with this family. We kind of discussed a little bit about the concerns that we had as an agency with this being the minor child's girlfriend's home. They are teenagers. We kind of went over a little bit of a safety plan, just kind of around the fact that they are teenagers. The other concern that we have is that there is active marijuana use in the home, and there is suspicion that the boys have been actively participating in that, which is not appropriate for their ages and stuff, because that is not legal for them to participate in. So we do have concerns with that. We did kind of go over some of the protocol as far as, that would need to be locked up. The marijuana would also need to be regulated on where it's being smoked at, and it's not in front of the children. We also discussed a plan where, not having the teenagers together in, the same part of the house unsupervised, so that way it kind of helps safeguard them. And I am working on trying to get that report typed up, so I apologize, I haven't had a chance to sit down and do that fully because of some other things that's been going on. But I am actively trying to get face-to-face parenting time set up. I've been working with Orchards out of Macomb County, as well as trying to get in touch with somebody in the Wayne County office, or not Wayne County, excuse me, Washtenaw County office at their headquarters that service our county, and trying to coordinate services to do, either do it down here or at a mutual point, or even up in Macomb County where they can provide a courtesy for the Runaways contract. So there's a lot of moving pieces to that. And as Ms. Thomas said, we have been doing, some virtual visits as much as we can. There's been some technology difficulties on the parent end where they weren't able to connect to audio. We tried to do phone calls. And we're still trying to get everything arranged. And it was to my understanding, in speaking with mom and dad this morning, that mom is not feeling the best right now. So she's been kind of sick off and on all night and then through this morning. So, we are trying to get a face-to-face set up. I spoke to my supervisor this morning about potentially having the girlfriend's family possibly supervise a visit this weekend. There was a request to have the girlfriend come up and spend some time with the boys this weekend. So we were talking and discussing that as well. And with placement, they're willing to allow her to come into their home with a safety plan in place stating, you are not to be staying in the same room, you're not to be behind closed doors, those kind of things. So that way, she can be there, spend some time with them because that's important to them as well. And then offering that time if mom and dad are able to either go with the girlfriend's family up to a mutual point, meet and have a face-to-face with the boys. We would like to try to arrange that if possible. So that way they can have that face-to-face interaction. So we are working on some of those steps. And with that distance, we understand it's very challenging, but we are trying to figure out a solution as quick as possible.
Thank you for that. And just because of the required findings today, do you still believe that given the parents' current situation in the children's or the youth's conditions, I guess, that there would still be a substantial risk of harm if the court were to return the kids to their parents' care and custody?
At this time, yes. There's still the barriers of not having stable housing. They are currently, still trying to search for a place to stay. We did talk about connecting with Housing Hub of Lenawee, and they signed a release for the agency to kind of help with that process. We're also still working on that parenting education piece. They have enrolled in parenting education through the Care Pregnancy Center. So I'm working on coordinating with them as well with the signed release that from last week. So we're going to try to set up some goals to fit the format of parenting the teenagers and the importance and stress of, with the trauma, with education. So there's a lot of concerns with the boys' education as well. I'm working with the school currently to get signed releases. I have those in my office ready to go for the parents to review and sign. So that way they can have, CR in particular, to have his IEP updated and then also have MRS services come in and offer some services or accommodations that may be able to assist him further too. And then also coordinating with some additional testing that may need to be done to see where he's at academically so they can, work on that credit recovery because he is in a credit recovery program. Actually, both boys are. So we want to see where they're at with that and then kind of figure out a plan to get them back on track.
And are there any other services that or referrals that have been made to help address the issues, the barriers? And I know that they're not court ordered at this time. So anything that the parents have done prior to today?
Well, prior to today, they've, as I've stated, they've already been working with housing help. I got a release signed so that I can help coordinate some of that and just see, what kind of steps can we take as an agency to kind of help them find a place that would be a stable and affordable place for them to reside. And then also we've talked about maybe setting up some MRS services for Mr. Rupel just to kind of help with his situation because he is on SSI, I believe, and trying to figure out because he expressed wanting to work but would need some accommodations to kind of help with his medical needs and so forth. So we did talk about some of that. We also talked about trying to connect with Michigan Works to try to kind of help with their vehicle situation because my understanding it needs some repairs. Right now, they're kind of living out of their car. So that makes things a little bit challenging if it's not in full functioning mode. So they have enrolled in parenting education. So they've already started that process. Again, I got a release signed so I can kind of help coordinate with that process. They had indicated that's about a year program just to kind of go over some intensive parenting skills, kind of working with teenagers and just working on specific goals for them that will meet that family need.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions of Ms. Young and move to admit the court report and ask the court to also adopt the case service plan as signed by the parents.
I have no objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Thank you. They are received. Cross-examination, Mr. McFarland?
I do. Taking a look at my notes, it's been 3 weeks exactly since our adjudication. When did you reach out to the child's girlfriend's parents to see if they could at least drive? When was that initiated?
I don't have the exact date, but it was within, a few days of receiving that contact information. I had some other things that I was trying to get done on some other cases, but I connected with them as soon as I could and got the home study set up, background checks done. It's just right now I'm just trying to get everything all typed up and sent over to my supervisor for approval and for review. So I want to sit back down with that family and do some intensive safety planning, figuring out is this going to be a viable option for possible placement or at least
That wasn't my question. My question was the transportation issue. Is there any reason? I mean, did we reach out to them immediately and ask if they could drive the parents up there?
Well, that was never something that was brought to my attention that they were wishing that could happen. I mean, I from my understanding and speaking with that family, they don't have, it's more of just a mutual connection because of the boys. They don't have a formal relationship with them from my understanding in what that family expressed. They just saw more in passing when they picked the boys up from their home.
Foster parents, do they have an obligation when a child is placed with them? My client wants to know to transport kids to visits.
I think within reason, they're going to try to accommodate what they can. So, I mean, the foster mom also works for the state of Michigan as a supervisor in her county. So, she is very fully aware of what policy states and what the expectations are. So they are trying to work with us and trying to establish a good routine. So we are trying the best that we can to get a face-to-face in place. But the mom specifically requested virtual only until a certain time frame because the boys in that household was sick with the flu.
Okay. Have you explored a halfway meeting point?
Yes, I am working on exploring all of those options. We're trying to get a coordination between orchards to help facilitate that.
Do I hear that you have no funds available to pay for the parents to go to an out-of-county placement where your agency placed the kids?
I'm not aware of that. No, we have certain amount of funds that will help facilitate like providing gas money or not necessarily like physical transportation, but we have at least gas cards that we can help provide when those are available.
What exact community do the boys live in?
They're in Macomb County.
Well, is there a place in Macomb County? What's the city or village?
I believe it's like Harrison Township.
Do you know if there are any Greyhound or any other public transportation that could go up there? Have you explored that?
I have not yet, but that's something I can look into. I just don't know where the closest Greyhound would be to here. So, I mean, I have explored trying to figure out a mutual point, maybe in the Ann Arbor area where they could facilitate a face-to-face visit there.
Okay.
I'm trying to work out all of those details.
Parents, mom indicates to me that they're still having no luck here in Lenawee County. What have we done to explore, because it was mentioned in court last time, the parents possibly securing housing up in the county where the boys are located, where mom originated from?
We had a brief discussion about that last week when I met with the parents, trying to maybe connecting with services up there. But again, I mean, a lot of it is going to be the transportation piece of it. They've expressed that their vehicle needs some work done on it. So they're not sure the part of going back and forth trying to seek for housing. So I need to try to get in touch with the housing unit up there and see if we can kind of work together as a unit between our housing hub of Lenawee and the housing hub in Macomb County. So I would need to try to explore that a little bit more before I can, have a definitive answer as to like what all we can help with that part of it.
One moment. Well, my understanding, talking that the boys wish to be here in Lenawee County. So what foster care homes have we explored in the meantime in Lenawee County, which would allow the boys to have visits with the parents unencumbered? Can you tell me what steps you have taken to further explore Lenawee County?
I mean, we're working really closely with our IPU unit that explores everywhere in the state of Michigan. We've explored all available placements here in Lenawee County. There was nothing that was available for potential placement here. I've had a discussion with both mom and dad about if there was any relatives that would be available for placement. They did not identify anybody that would be able or willing to be explored. The only people that they were willing to have explored was the girlfriend's family. So we did reach out to that family and we've been exploring that and trying to finalize that process. And I also reached out to the boys and tried to see if they had any friends or family that they wish to have explored. And again, there was nobody identified other than that girlfriend's family. So it has been an ongoing process since CPS was handling the case. We are still actively trying to search family, through like Bridges searches and whatever else we can try to utilize through our IPU unit, who specializes in that placement search process. So we are actively trying to engage in that.
Once a week? Is this a once a week search? Once every other day search? What is you can just, my client, just explain to us.
There's so many people that are actively searching for a closer placement. I can't really give you that answer.
Okay.
It's our agency, the IPU unit, we've got our licensing department, so there's multiple people that are in play on this.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, nothing further.
Mr. Brooks,
Oh, I do have one more, if I might be right.
go ahead.
Funds for their car, that seems to be kind of their home and their transportation, everything for them right now. Does the agency have any funds available to help them prepare their car so they have some transportation to get groceries, to get medical care?
I would have to explore that with supervision and see what would be available, but I mean, I can't think of anything necessarily like off the top of my head that would be able to support every single one of those needs. I have given them information on resources that they can try to reach out to, such as Michigan Works, that will address.
Hang on,
those needs.
my question was, are there any funds available to help them repair their car?
That's what I was trying to explain to you, Mr. McFarland.
Okay. Is that a yes or no?
I was trying to explain that I do not know of anything through our agency directly, but through other agencies, there are funds available to help with certain circumstances. And I met with the parents to discuss that.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting. One moment, my client has a question. My client advises me that they've gone to Michigan Works, and because my client's not in the PATH program, they can't help. Are you aware of that, just to let you know?
I'm not familiar with the PATH program and all that it would entail to qualify, but I know they had previously received services through them, and it had at some point those services had lapsed. So I don't know if it's a matter of re-enrolling in that program or what all would need that process would entail, but I will look into that and just kind of touch base with Michigan Works on what that process would look like, and then try to meet with the parents again to come up with a plan.
One moment, let me see if my client has any more questions. Anything else? Yeah, my client would welcome any assistance you could with helping them get money to get their car repaired. Nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Brooks,
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Heiss.
Ms. Young, are the boys on medications?
The youngest child does have some medical needs, and he is on some medications, and they just went to the doctors yesterday to kind of explore, getting some of those refills and whatnot. Mom did provide me with an inhaler, and I had that overnighted up to them, so he would have that because he does have some asthma, and from my understanding, from like long-term COVID issues. So he is having all of those needs met in that foster home.
So it sounds like you got some kind of an information that the boys may have been using marijuana in the girlfriend's parents' home. Is that right?
This is kind of more firsthand knowledge. I was at the initial removal. So I was there when they came out of that home. They appeared to be under the influence. They smelled of marijuana heavily when they got into our vehicle when we were transporting up to the placement. We did not really question them on it, but we did note that, yes, they did smell of this marijuana. They were around it. And there was acknowledgement by that family that, yes, it had been smoked in that residence during that day. So, there are concerns that, yes, they have that readily available to them and that they could have been potentially utilizing the marijuana while they were at that residence.
What has been done to address if the kids were dependent on marijuana?
We have not really addressed that yet, but that is something that we would like to explore. They have not expressed any concerns with any like withdrawals or anything like that. I know the placement is really on top on all of their needs, So like I said, she was formerly a foster care worker, now a supervisor up there in licensing. So she's very familiar with, ensuring any of those needs like that, for instance, would be met. So they were addressing some things at the doctor's office, just, with the medical things for CR in particular. So these are all things that the placement and I have greatly discussed over the course of the time that they've been in that home.
Are we doing any screens on them up there to know if they're still self-medicating and using?
I don't think we can authorize doing drug screens on the minor children without consent from the parents or from the courts. So no, we have not done any screens.
Have you offered any weekends or a day that the boys can come down and stay in a hotel and visit their parents and visit their friends and girlfriends?
We were actually exploring the girlfriend's home to not, if not approved for necessarily placement, but to come down for a weekend to do such as that. So we are exploring that. For this weekend, it was discussed having the girlfriend come up and do a visit over the weekend. And that's where I was trying to see and coordinate if the parents would be able to go up with that family to do a visit with the boys face to face if they were able to do so. I'm trying to get in touch with that family. I know they're working right now. They work at one of the universities in town. So I've asked them to give me a call to kind of discuss it further.
Okay, the parents lack housing, is that correct? So the boys couldn't even stay all night with their parents, correct?
That just depends if they were able to get a hotel room or, arrange any other things for the night. I know when they were here, with the parents, they would stay at the hotel when they were able to afford that.
Have the parents, indicated any development in their plans to educate the boys if they were back with them? Anything, any change, any benefit from services yet on that issue?
Well, they're working on trying to address some of that through the parenting education, and we're trying to coordinate, finding suitable and stable housing. So, I mean, some of that is being addressed with all these different moving parts. So we are trying to actively do that.
Mother is not employed. Does she have a disability that you're aware of?
That's actually not accurate. From my understanding, she is working and has been working for a couple of weeks at one of the local Wendy's.
Okay, is she working full time?
Since then.
Is she working full time?
I don't know necessarily if it's full time or part time. I just know that she's employed and she's working, as much as she can. There is opportunity to try to pick up more hours when able to do so. So I know she's been trying to do that. But I don't know if it's classified as full-time.
Okay, and then, just a minute here, one more. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, any redirect?
No, Judge, thank you.
Recross?
Yes, one question. I know in other cases, the agency has been able to come up with funds for a hotel room. Is this something that you could explore for the parents to have a hotel room to visit with the boys?
I can explore that, definitely. I know when CPS was working with them, they did provide some of that support for a couple of weeks. So I don't know. I mean, I would have to have that discussion with supervision on how much we could put towards something like that. But I will explore that and let the parents know what the options would be.
Well, I know tonight it's supposed to we have freeze warnings out, and these folks are living in a broken car. What's available tonight to put them up so they're not in freezing conditions?
Again, I would have to connect with supervision and see what could be worked out, or if they would be able to access one of the local shelters that's here in town.
I guess that's something that you'll be addressing today so they have a place tonight, perhaps?
I will address that with supervision after the court hearing, and I will connect with the parents in that manner.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Judge, I do have one question. I'm sorry, it slipped my mind, but Ms. Young, do you have any concerns about unsupervised parenting time?
I think at this time, I mean, I think we would need to more than likely stick with more of the supervised setting, because these boys were unattended to for an unknown amount of time throughout the day. I mean, in the conversation that myself and the CPS worker had at removal, these parents had indicated that they would often drop the kids off at the library, and then they wouldn't pick the boys up until around like 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, and not necessarily know where they were at any given time, which is kind of a concern if you don't know where they're at or who they're with or what's going on at that time. So I think at this time, like until we can establish some good structure and good boundaries, I think we would need to try to have as much of that supervised time currently and work towards that unsupervised time with the children.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any other witnesses today?
No, Judge.
Witness testimony today, Mr. McFarland?
One moment. No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Heiss?
I have no witnesses today, thank you.
Comments then, beginning with Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Judge. I just would ask the court to enter the case service plan into an order so the parents can start to work on that. I know that there's a lot of those basic needs that both the parents need and which would and then turn benefit the children, and so they can be back here in town with their parents and their social circle. I know that there are a lot of concerns about how long that might take and the distance that where they're currently at, and we're really aware of that. And I trust that although active efforts are not required, that those efforts will continue to be put forth as Ms. Young is continuing to do today. With that, we would just ask for a standard 90-day review. Thank you.
Mr. McFarland?
Well, Your Honor, I'm trying to think about cases that we may have had since April 3rd. And if any of our cases have children that have been placed in foster care. I believe there might have been. So I guess I trust that the agency is doing their best. But you know, we get a case next week and the child is placed in foster care and these kids still remain up there. I guess I would have some concerns and we'd bring that to the court attention. Unfortunately, this is a case involving poverty, to put it bluntly. And I think the parents need immediate assistance. Their house right now is their car, broken down, it's going to be freezing tonight. I hope there's something that we can do for them or a shelter that they can find. Mom, understandably, doesn't want the boys to move from place to place to place. But there is a barrier that the agency placed them out of county and the agency is not able to get the parents to where the children are placed. I'd like to see in an order that the agency is to provide funding, is to come up with transportation immediately for these parents to visit the kids. Zoom is not the same as a personal visit. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Mom also disputes that she doesn't know where the boys were when she dropped them off at the library, that she would know. Of course, teenage kids, you know, think about us at that age. Our parents didn't know exactly where we were at all times, but Mom had knows they were family and they were with friends and other people. So it wasn't as depicted, Your Honor. Housing, that seems to be a major problem. Mom is working. And just hope there's some assistance we can get in the immediate future for them. Thanks.
Mr. Brooks?
Mr. McFarland's opening comments summed it up nicely. This couple stands guilty as charged of being poor. And our system is set up to really offer them any meaningful help. So the kids get yanked out of there and put someplace else, and these people are left on their own. There's not anything you can do about it. It's just the way our system is. But it really highlights the flaws in the system, which are many. But I feel bad for these people. They're not bad people. They're poor people. Very poor people. And we can't help. And the kids pay for it.
The father has income from disability. I would ask you to order the agency to do budgeting work where that money is going in a month, and then mom's employment money where that's going in a month. They have capacity. If mom doesn't have a disability, she has a capacity to work, one or the other. Michigan Rehabilitation Services will fix the car, pay gas, pay all those things, and then there's some kind of barrier to it. I get that. But there, between this family and poverty, there's a disability check and there's mom's potential to work. So I think they have some ability to fix some of this, and we're all on board to help. The boys are waiting for this to happen, and that's kind of their position too, is that they're people just didn't pull the weight, and they can pull the weight and they should pull the weight, and the family can be reunified. Thank you.
Thank you. The court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's review hearing. I have looked at the case services plan. It does appear to be engineered to assist the family in connecting them to the services that they need to overcome the barriers that have been identified that raise the issue to the level of risk that the children needed to be removed from their care. That did include the acknowledgement that there was Social Security funding, that mother does not have a diagnosed disability, and that there are advantages in the community that both parents could be taking advantage of in order to alleviate the need to have their children placed in foster care. As to Mr. McFarland's point, these are teenage boys, not as easy to place, frankly, as some of the very young children, unfortunately, that have to be taken into care on an emergent basis. So we're not really, when it comes to foster care placements, we're not comparing apples to apples in that sense. Each situation is different, each family is different, each child is different. And I know that our department does the best they can to find a suitable placement when each family's level rises to where housing is needed for children of different ages, capacities, needs, and risk levels, frankly. This is a very highly skilled placement. Unfortunately, it is a significant distance from Adrian. I'm going to change the parenting time to include unsupervised parenting time. These are children who are, again, teenagers. The family has not really demonstrated, they've demonstrated that they weren't watching the kids for purposes of removal, I recall that, but just for purposes of visitation, I would like to be able to allow them to see their children and their children to see them. So I'm going to remove the barrier of simply supervised parenting time in hopes that something could be arranged that would allow the children to return to their community more frequently, but still enjoy a more stable environment where their needs are being met. The level of risk still remains too high to allow the children to come back to their parents. I'm happy to hear that Ms. Wilkowski has maybe found some employment, but we will look for them to work on budgeting and to step into asking for some of those services, like help fixing the car, like securing some of things. Ms. Caitlin Young is very capable to testify she's already met with them on some of these resources. It's now up to these parents to step up and take advantage of those resources. When we're talking about active efforts, that means sitting with the family, connecting them to resources, helping fill out applications, and that's all happening here. But this is not really an American Heritage case. These are not adults, these are grown adults that should be able to fill out these applications for assistance, that should be able to fill out job applications, and understand that without those resources, their children are the ones that are suffering. So I can appreciate the efforts that the department is making. They are certainly reasonable efforts and active efforts towards goal reunification, and it's up to parents at this point to step up and take advantage of that. Until they're able to do that, children will remain in foster care. There's a serious restricted place for them at this time. All range and huge amount of services we're discussing today will be available to them moving forward. Thank you to Ms. Heiss for satisfying her applications and starting the items, and for Ms. Caitlin Young's efforts in working towards reunification of this family. All right, our next review I can offer to you on July 16th at 2:30 p.m. I'm also going to ask the family to look at alternative goals. I'm going to set the July 16th hearing as a permanency planning hearing in addition to review. I have concerns that the family is not stepping up to take advantage of some services, and I hope that they will in the next report period. But I think that we really need to look at APLA and some other opportunities for these kids given their age, and the fact that this has been a stagnant situation for a significant period of time. We're on petition 3 for this family. These conditions are not entirely independent of the reasons why petitions have been authorized in the past. These are long-standing challenges that this family is facing. So I'm going to ask the department to really have a look at what is best for this family moving forward and what those resources would be to support the kids, to be where they want to be. And if that's a safe and suitable environment, for purposes of looking at an alternative placement, I'd like to hear about it next time we get back. Are there any other specifics that anybody wanted me to address in the order? All right, that's all for today. We'll see you Tuesday, July 16th.